Cindy, a Republican. Good morning to you.
Hi. I have 4 really quick questions.
Did you say 4, Cindy? Cindy, did you say 4?
Yeah.
You got to give me 2. You got to give me 2 because we're running out of time.
Okay. He made 2 statements about Trump, and one was he hires immigrants. Did he say they were illegal or legal in his opinion? Because I've heard Trump say they were legal. Number 2, you said he's running for political reasons, and he doesn't have to do this, and he is giving a voice to the frustration of a lot of people in this country.
All right, we'll take those 2 comments. Congressman.
So I assume that the people that Mr. Trump hires are legal immigrants, because otherwise he'd be breaking the law. He can answer that. With regards to Mr. Trump giving a voice, yeah, I don't really understand that. We all have a voice, and we all have frustrations, and people today have more outlets than ever before to express themselves and be heard, because we have social media today, which we didn't have a decade ago. We, more than people that give us a voice or echo what we say, I think we need people that will deliver solutions for our frustrations. And there are many good Republican candidates focused on a plan for the future of this country, a way to change the course of this country from what we've seen the last about 7 years now, which we don't agree with. Mr. Trump is not one of those people. Mr. Trump has not advanced one serious solution for the future of this country, and I think he's going to get exposed in the upcoming debates.
Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Bill, independent.
Good morning, Greta.
Morning.
I just like to, this guy, I don't know how old he is, but I was hearing him earlier when he was talking about Cuba shooting down the Cessnas. Let me tell you something. In 1967, and I didn't know this until I learned it from C-SPAN and then researched it further, 1967, Israel shot up one of our battleships in lieu of being able to blame it on Egypt. And there was a whole big scandal right there. And as far as these big spy networks, hell, the Mossad has blanketed the United States. Every beachwear store on the coastline of this country is run by the Mossad. That's my take.
Oh, Bill, how do you know that? How do you know that?
Well, my son, growing up here at the beach, used to date a couple of the Israeli girls, and that's who owns all the beachwear stores, as well as there was a big deal here where they were not paying into the system, but sending all the money over to Israel, and I don't understand or know what big scandal over that.
Okay, so Bill talking about just Myrtle Beach, but then saying it's in the entire East Coast. I don't know. What do you make of his
remarks? Well, I think what he's trying to do is criticize my position on Cuba policy. And look, I just think that we should treat the Cuban government for what it is, which is an enemy of this country. I mean, the Cuban government, the list of what it has done to hurt American interests throughout the years is quite long. And what I told the president in a very respectful way when I spent some time with him in April was, you know, do we want to go back to the days where the Cuban government was cash rich and had a robust military deployed throughout the world, was aggressively exporting revolution, training guerrilla forces in our hemisphere and sending them to a number of Latin American countries? That is what these men do when they have money. And the men who did that back then, by the way, the same men who had nuclear missiles installed in Cuba and pointed at us, they are the same men in power. You can't even make the argument, well, there's a new generation, things have changed. No, it's 89-year-old Fidel Castro and 85-year-old Raul Castro that are running Cuba. So I don't expect men of that age to all of a sudden become enlightened and become pro-American dictators.
We'll hear from Phil next in Centerville, Massachusetts. Independent.
Yeah, I have 2 questions, Representative. Who used a nuclear bomb before? That's one. And 2, you said that Iran is our enemy. Well, I consider Israel our enemy as well as Saudi Arabia. They are a big sponsor of terrorism themselves. And every time Israel does something to upset us with the Palestinians, wouldn't you say they go against our policies as well because we want them to stop building in the West Bank?
Okay. Congressman?
Israel is this country's greatest ally. It is the only democracy in the Middle East that respects human rights. Everyone in Israel, whether you are an Israeli, whether you're Jewish, Arab, whatever your race or ethnicity is, you have a vote, you have a voice, and your human rights are respected. That is not true of any other country in that part of the world. Israel votes with the United States almost lockstep in the United Nations. They support our interests all over the world. They are really one of our most important partners in the world. So I think the gentleman has it backwards. The Israelis are our friends. The Iranians are our enemies.
His view is that he sees the conflict between Israel and Palestine as terrorism.
Yeah, and there are other people that feel that way. And I do think there's some terrorism, and it's the Palestinians that attack innocent Israelis. I mean, I've been to Israel. I have witnessed how hard it is for Israelis to live in their own country. I mean, there's no question that Israel is the ancestral home of the Jewish people. There's plenty of evidence in history and in the Bible that demonstrates that. You know, it's the Palestinians, unfortunately, and not all of them. They are misled by their leaders that launch visceral attacks.
You're talking about Hamas at this?
I'm talking about Hamas, but I'm also talking, we look historically at the PLO, right? There has been a lot of violence directed at Israel. Israel has had to build walls, literally, to protect its citizens. You know, I've been there. I've seen it. I've been in East Jerusalem, and it's really sad what our Israeli brethren have to live through.
Let's talk about the highway funding, because the Senate is on track right now after clearing a procedural hurdle yesterday to vote on a 6-year funding stream for the Highway Trust Fund. The House passed a 5-month patch. How do you think this gets resolved before next week?
Well, as a member of the House Committee on Transportation Infrastructure, it's good to see all this activity with regards to a long-term bill. For too long, for about 7 or 8 years, Congress has been passing these short-term extensions that really don't provide the certainty to the transportation infrastructure industry that it needs to hire people and to complete big projects that will really help alleviate traffic and congestion all over this country. So what I see happening, and maybe I'm wrong, is that the Senate will end up taking the House's 5-month extension, hopefully the last short-term extension for the Highway Trust Fund, so that in the fall, together, we can all work on a long-term highway bill, a 6-year bill that is fully paid for.
Yeah.
That is the goal. Chairman Ryan of the House Ways and Means Committee and Chairman Schuster of the Transportation Infrastructure Committee, my chairman, are in constant communication, and I think that's their joint goal.
So, and part of the thing that they're eyeing is a one-time tax on multinational companies as a way to fund the highway trust fund. Would you be on board with that?
I think so. I think that it is the cleanest way to pay for this, given the political circumstance. There isn't too much of an appetite in Congress to raise the gas tax or the gas user fee these days. There may be a time for that in the future, but not today. So I think that using revenues from American profits, corporate profits that are deemed repatriated, provides us a solution.
All right. Well, Congressman Carlos Curbelo, hope you enjoyed talking to our viewers this morning.
I did. Thank you.
Come back again.
I will.
All right. We're going to take a short break.